Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo, with your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. Today's episode is presented by Golf Dojo. Your space, your time, your game. Bring your game to Golf Dojo, Western New York's best indoor golf experience. Visit mygolfdojo.com. My name is Patrick Moran. Big thank you, as always, to everybody out there for watching, for listening, for following, for subscribing. I truly appreciate you all very, very much. This is our Wednesday episode, our midweek episode, which means this is our weekly Podbag. This is the episode where you, the watcher, the listener, you control the narrative. Your questions, your comments, your takes featured on the show. You drop them, I pluck them, and react to them. That's what we do here on Wednesdays on Talking Buffalo. Well, I'll let you know real quick before we get going, a couple quick things, and we'll dive into this week's Podbag. And it's a good one too, man. A lot of good, strong Bills takes, both sides of the fence. Optimistic, negative, some really good stuff in the Podbag today. I want to let you know, Wednesday night, so depending on when you're watching this would actually be, or listening to this tonight, I'm going to be live, Imperial Pizza. I'm going to be joined by special guest Andy Young from Spectrum Sports. He has really taken over at Spectrum and done an outstanding job, really grinding it out since John Scott left for Channel 2, since Rachel Hotmeyer left the market to go to Detroit. Andy has really stepped up. He is doing a great job. I will be talking to him at Imperial Pizza, 8 p.m. We'll talk about his life, his career, plenty of Buffalo Bills. It's going to be a fun time if you happen to be out in the South Buffalo area. Imperial Pizza has 2 locations now. I'm talking about the one on Abbott Road. If you happen to be in the area, stop up, say hi. Would love to see you. If not, make sure you catch the stream live. Again, 8 p.m. on Wednesday night, and it'll be available on demand immediately after on the YouTube side. And of course, we'll drop in podcast form on Thursday. And then also for Friday's show, I'm going to be joined by Chad DeDominicis. Actually, I'm taping a show on Friday for Chad, or with Chad, and that will be featured early next week. Kind of take a little bit of a break from some Bills talking and some Sabres and other stuff with Chad. Always one of my favorite guests. Tell you what's not one of my favorite things: weather in Buffalo, particularly on Tuesday. I am recording this Tuesday mid-afternoon, and it is pretty straight up cold. Now, I know many of you are going to say I'm being a little melodramatic, a little hyperbole. Not really. It's just cold outside. And I see a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people on my social media, whether it's my personal friends on Facebook, whether it's people that I follow on Twitter or people that follow me on Twitter, excited about this shit, man. It's crazy to me. You guys are monsters. You're excited about it being cold outside. You're talking about pumpkin spice lattes. You're talking about Halloween season already. It is August 20th, man. If you are excited about it being cold enough outside that you can comfortably wear a hoodie right now, that you're pumped that it's cold out, if you're excited about that, and it's not even Labor Day yet, you are, and make no mistake about this, let me be clear, you are a monster. You're a monster. You're demented. You have to be. It's still August, and you're already looking forward. This excites you about being cold in Halloween season, in pumpkin spice. Come on, man. Let the summer play out, at least until Labor Day. Personally, for me, I kind of feel like, now technically summer goes on to September 22nd, but I'll allow week 1 in the NFL season. Like when it's Sunday, week 1 NFL season, and you want to start to feel those fall vibes and you want it to be colder outside and you want to see pumpkins all over the place and you want to see Halloween decorations, you want to go to the spirit store, all that stuff. All right, I'll give that to you. Once kickoff starts in the NFL, regular season, not preseason, regular season, second week of January, I'll allow for that. But if this excites you right now, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? You live, I live, a lot of you watching and listening, you live in a town or region where you get really nice weather for a handful of months a year at best, where you can comfortably walk around in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt or a polo and not be frigid out. And you guys just want to blow right past that. You want to go through that stop sign and you want to go right to fall. Elite weather fall. You want to wear hoodies. You want to be chilly. You want to put a skull cap on. You want your pumpkin spice lattes. You want it to be Halloween season, your monsters. What is the matter with you? What's the matter with you? Living in Western New York or somewhere up north, and you're just ready to blow right past the rest of summer and you want to get to fall. Blows my mind. I think of Buffalo, I think of weather, and you know what I think of? I think of last January and February, where I think we went like 27 straight days without even a hint of sunshine. Just gloomy ass, depressive, straight up freezing ass cold weather. And I ain't even talking about snow. Forget about snow. Snow's not even part of my equation right now. You guys are nuts. You know, I lived in Florida for 5 years. I moved there in 2016, came back to Buffalo in 2021. And so we're clear. I'm not hating on Buffalo. I love me some Buffalo, man. I love being home. I love the food in Buffalo. I love the people in Buffalo. Well, I love the people in Buffalo that are not excited that it's cold out in August. Them people aside, I love y'all, man. But I don't love the weather. I live in Buffalo despite the weather. And I mean, you know what? Maybe that's not even true. I could get into some fall weather. I'm down with the fall weather. I'm a hoodie guy. Shit, man. It's August 22nd. I'm wearing a hoodie right now if you're watching this on the video side. And it's not even because it's cold out. I like wearing hoodies. I like that vibe, that kind of style. I wear that shit earlier in July when it's 85 degrees out, at least indoors with some air conditioning when I can. So that's kind of my thing. But man, enjoy the summer. You know, again, you know, I was going back to Florida. I lived in Florida and I can understand that. Like when you wanted it, when you lived in Florida, you would beg for a day where it'd be chilly enough outside, the air would be brisk enough that you could get away with this shit. Like this hoodie I got on now, maybe 20 days per year at most, can you comfortably wear a hoodie in Florida? At most, 20, 25 days. And we're here now in Buffalo, and it's still August out, not even hitting Labor Day yet. And you animals are excited that it's cold out. You want it to be cold. You want to wear hoodies. You want to wear skull caps. You want to go to Tim Hortons and get pumpkin spice lattes. You want to go buy Halloween decorations. You want to put that shit up on your windows. You want to go Halloween costume shopping. Stop it. Stop it. That is not allowed before, at the earliest, week 1 of the NFL regular season. Just stop it. Please. Miserable. That shit makes me miserable. By the way, also Monday, a pretty miserable day in terms of the Buffalo news on the injury report front. Nothing, drastic or catastrophic, I should say, like last week where we found out Matt Milano was injured and he ain't going to be back to December at the earliest. But some pretty significant injury news to come down to shoot on Monday. Sean McDermott said that quarterback Mitch Trubisky is going to be out multiple weeks. Quentin Morris, multiple weeks, and he still got some evaluations, so that might even be worse. MVS, multiple weeks. And then he listed some players as week to week. Among them, Curtis Samuel, which don't need to tell you on this offense right now that is lacking a little bit on the weapon side, that losing Curtis Samuel, if he's not ready to start the season, that would be a big blow. Also, Damar Hamlin was vying to be the starting free safety. He's out. And Balin Spector, who is just injured, quite frankly, more than he's healthy. He's out, although that did give an opportunity for someone else to shine, which obviously we'll be talking about a little bit on this podcast. It's crazy. And I know there's a lot of people, a lot of conspiracy theorists out there that are blaming the Bills trainers and the facilities and stuff like that. I can't get behind that at all. It's just luck. Injuries are luck, man. These are professional athletes, some of the best athletes on this earth. They take care of their bodies, they work hard. They're in the gym, they eat right, they sleep right. Shit just happens. The Bills went through a nice stretch early in the Josh Allen run here where they were really lucky with injuries. Over the last couple of years, it feels like it's evened out. It's been really bad. It's just kind of gravity, I suppose, when it comes to injuries. But hopefully, it doesn't get any worse. I don't think you're going to see many players that are going to have a defined role at all play in this last preseason game on Saturday. Sean already announced that the starters are not going to play. I don't think you're going to see many key backups have maybe more than a cup of coffee during that game. Not pumpkin spice lattes, by the way. Cup of coffee, whatever it may be, on Saturday. But anyway, I want to dive into this pod bag, and I want to preface this first question. Actually, let me read the first question, and then I'll kind of preface why I think it was important to address this first. At Broski Kaniski, he says, it's unbelievable to me how doom and gloom so many people are about this team. This team, of course, being the Buffalo Bills, when it's still freaking August. 4 straight AFC East titles and a Super Bowl contender each year. You'd think this team was tanking with the way some of you are talking about them. Instead of all the sky is falling theories about how switching course and finding, I'm sorry, he says, instead of all the sky is falling theories, how about switching course and finding an optimistic picture only to paint about this team? Thank you for that, Broski. Look, and this is where this is coming from. There has been, and it's noticeable too, a lot of negative talk, a lot of negative vibe when it comes to the Buffalo Bills lately. Now, it's been going on from a national level, I think pretty much since early in the offseason when the Bills lost several key free agents, or several key veterans that they cut and then traded Stephon Diggs. I think the national perspective, for the most part, all along has been that the Bills are due to take a step back. I think on a local level, and locally I'm talking about media, content creators, fans, feels like there's a growing mood or vibe or worry that this team, that maybe the national media is right. Maybe this is the year where after several years of being square in the Super Bowl mix, that this team takes a step back. Again, you lose some key parts. Who you replace them with, debatable, and we'll talk about that as well separately here in a few minutes. But the injuries, little things that maybe shouldn't matter at all. Like the preseason should not mean shit in terms of games. But what I will say is this, the offense loses Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Mitch Morse, and we've seen how they look in camp. You get to a preseason game, the first team offense against Chicago didn't look very good. Literally a cup of coffee for Josh Allen. He plays one series, 3 plays, and then the next, the quarter runs out, and they yank him. And then week 2, last week against Pittsburgh, the weather forces Josh, or it doesn't force, but it makes Sean McDermott decide that Josh Allen not worth the risk, so he doesn't play him at all. As a result, we really have not seen this offense cook at all against an opponent. And I feel like maybe if the weather wasn't bad and Josh plays last week and the Bills go right down the field and they score a touchdown in Pittsburgh, you yank out that unit, you feel a lot better about the team. But that didn't happen. Again, weather being a major issue. And this team has looked over the preseason, especially on offense, although offenses look pretty shitty for the most part around the league when it comes to preseason anyway, if you've been paying attention. But anyway, that, and then the injuries. Matt Milano is a big blow. There is no getting around that. I'm not going to jump into or dive into the peculiars of that, or all the particulars, I should say, because we've already done that. But it's a big injury. And you got a lot of guys who've been out. The safety position is a concern. Nobody can stay goddamn healthy. Mike Edwards gets hurt. Then Cole Bishop gets hurt. All right, well, DeMar Hamlin, he's going to step up. He's going to be started. Well, guess what? Now DeMar Hamlin is hurt. Those guys are trying to work their way back, being Edwards and Bishop. I don't love Taylor Rapp to begin with. So there's a lot of questions there. There's questions about depth at certain positions. I completely get it. Add it all up, and it's making for, at least compared to recent years, an unusual amount of skepticism when it comes to the Bills. So back to the poster being Broski, his point. He says, paint me an optimistic picture only of the 2024 Buffalo Bills. All right, well, I feel that. We could do that. You start with Josh Allen. Josh Allen is as good as anybody in the NFL, and I truly feel that way. Pat Mahomes, you say he's the greatest quarterback in the league, and I agree with that. He has to be. He's won 3 Super Bowls. He's number one. But Josh Allen is right there. On any Sunday, Josh Allen can go blow for blow with Patrick Mahomes, and he's done it not just once either. Josh Allen is not just as good of a quarterback as anyone in the league. Josh Allen is as good as anybody, period, in the NFL. Josh Allen can put this team on his back. Josh Allen could go and win you 3 to 5 games throughout the season that I feel like you'd have no business even being in the game without him. Forget about a scrub backup, like say Mitch Trubisky certainly has looked like a scrub at summer in the preseason. Wouldn't even just say an okay quarterback. Let's say somebody who's average to even above average, a veteran, Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco can have some good weeks, but there's going to be some games where he just ain't the guy. He's not getting it done. Like if Joe Flacco's the Buffalo Bills quarterback, there's going to be 3 to 5 games where the Bills lose that game. But because Josh Allen is the quarterback, because Josh Allen can make some magic, can make some things happen, I feel like there's 3 to 5 games throughout the course of a regular season that you're going to win because Josh Allen is the best player on the field on that Sunday and ends up being all the difference. So that's the most important thing. You always got a chance when you got the best player on the field. And unless Patrick Mahomes, and maybe on the defensive side, you can make an argument for a couple players, but for the most part, week by week by week, Josh Allen is going to be as good or better than anyone else who's on the football field. That's the most important thing. But there's other things besides just Josh. This isn't a Josh or nothing type football team. Feels that way sometimes, but it's not. Taron Johnson is an all-pro, and he's a difference maker. And he's I think he is the new leader of this defense, especially with Jordan gone, Trey gone for the time, at least being now. Michael Hyde, maybe gone for good, maybe not. We'll see. But regardless, this is like Taron Johnson's defense now. He's the leader out there, and he's a difference maker, and he's literally an all-pro. One of the very best slot corners in the entire NFL. You got guys like Dalton Kincaid and Terrell Bernard. I feel like maybe they're not there yet, but they're like right on the cusp, I should say, of being legitimate real stars in this league. Like by the end of this season, if they play to what we feel like their ceiling is, Terrell Bernard is a Pro Bowl linebacker. Dalton Kincaid is a top 5, hell, maybe even a top 3 tight end in the entire NFL. They're like right there. They're on the brink of becoming stars. And they have some good to really good players in Greg Rizzo, Ed Oliver, Deion Dawkins. Say what you want about Deion. Some people think he's overrated. Dude's a multi-time Pro Bowler. He's one of the better left tackles in the league. Rasul Douglas, he's another one. This team's got plenty of good veterans who can make plays. They got guys who I feel like are still ascending. Christian Benford, Khalil Shakir. You know how I feel about Khalil Shakir. Apparently, somebody doesn't know because later in the show, you'll hear from somebody who thinks that I thought Khalil stunk. But anyway, those guys, Spencer Brown, these are all guys that are on the rise. You got a running back in James Cook who, you know what? He does drop the ball too much. He makes mistakes. I don't know if you can fully trust him, but guess what, man? At the end of the day, James Cook was 4th in the entire NFL in rushing last season. 4th in the league. And guess what? He hasn't gotten worse. He's still young. He's only going into year 3. James Cook hasn't gotten worse. So they got young talent on this team. Then you can look at Von Miller. Look at the bright side. Von Miller can't be any worse than he was last year, right? He seems to have his speed back, some bend to him, some juice. Now, we've only seen that in camp because he's not playing in the preseason, which is a move I completely agree with. But he seems to got that. He's got that mojo back, that speed, that juice. It's back. I think 7 to 10 sacks is hardly out of the question. We talked about Matt Milano. That is a pretty devastating injury, and I don't think you can talk your way around that as much as we try. But you know what? The good news is Matt Milano should be back in December, which if so, that puts him back on the team in time for a stretch run down the regular season and hopefully into the playoffs. Matt Milano, when healthy and playing to his ability, his ceiling, is quite literally an all-pro linebacker, one of the very best in the NFL. So it's going to feel like the Bills signed a major, if everything goes right, it's going to sound like the Bills signed a major free agent down the stretch here in the regular season. And then you got a couple rookies, Keon Coleman, Ray Davis. I'm going to throw Ray Davis in there as well. They seem like exciting rookies. They're going to bring something to this offense. And then I would say, this team knows how to win close games. They know how to pull them out. I don't think that's went away. This is a team that is confident with a head coach that's been around for a while. They've been through it before. This is a team that still has its core together, led by the quarterback, of course. They have faced plenty of adversity throughout this run of being really good. And I don't see any reason why that doesn't continue. They know what it's like to face adversity. We saw it plenty last year. This was a team that was 6-6 after 12 games last year. And then I say the last thing is, sure, look, the Bills have question marks. No question about having question marks, right? But guess what? So do the rivals. The Jets got a lot of talent, but it feels like they got everything riding on an aging, if not old quarterback coming off a major injury who was not really that good in Green Bay the year before he came to the Jets in 2022. It's possible. It's conceivable. Aaron Rodgers could be over the hill. Not to mention, both his tackles are aging guys on the right and the left side. So there's questions with the Jets, especially at the most important position, quarterback. And then Miami, I think, has some major question marks as well. Major question marks on the offensive line. I'm not completely sold on their defense, that's for sure. And, they have, if it comes down to it, towards the end of the season, and they got a game, maybe even a 2-game lead on the Bills going into the last 6 weeks, Miami's got a brutal stretch. Their last 6 games, all of them, no breaks in between, man. They got 6 straight tough games to end the season. And Miami has a recent history of kind of folding a little bit down the stretch. So there you go, man. There are plenty of reasons, despite all the injuries and the kind of negative vibe feelings about the Buffalo Bills right now, based on paper, how they look on paper, based on what we've seen through a couple preseason games, stuff like that. There's still plenty to be optimistic about when it comes to the Bills. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to start to hammer through a lot more of these fan submissions here on this week's Podbag. All right, we are back with this week's Podbag. I got to be honest with you, I kind of felt good. Felt good, 2 things. It felt good to talk the Buffalo Bills up because it has felt like a little bit of a negative vibe recently, including this show, to be honest with you, with Bills talk. And it felt pretty good to unleash on you animals out there who are really excited that it's an unseasonably very cold stretch, a couple days here, late August in Buffalo. Don't send me down that rabbit hole again. All right, let's continue here. At Brian 150H. By the way, most of the good vibes with the Buffalo Bills are over because these are, again, and you guys are controlling the narrative and the topics of this episode. I'm just responding to them. Brian 150H. For me, it comes down to, had they replaced Diggs and Morse sufficiently on this year's team? I don't have a lot of confidence in McGovern at center and even less with Edwards at guard. When they finally got a good line in front of Josh, they tinker with it to save $8 million by releasing Mitch. Maybe it's worth $8 million to keep your generational quarterback upright. Getting a blue chip wide receiver and or center should have been a priority in this draft. Keon is a nice story, but he's not going to be a difference maker out of the gate. Thank you for that. All fair points. Even if most Bills fans don't want to hear that, I think they're fair points. Getting a blue chip wide receiver in this draft, that's hard to get. I mean, there's 3. You can make an argument about Thomas being a 4th, and it was really hard for the Bills to trade up. Clearly, Brandon Beane wanted to get more picks, not less. So I traded down twice. So getting a blue chip receiver, let alone a blue chip center as well, was not, it just wasn't going to happen. All comes down to them not wanting to, but be willing this year. And this is how I feel the Bills motto internally is right now with Brandon Beane and the staff right now. They want to win. They're trying to win. They're not packing it in by any means. But at the end of the day, if need be, the Bills are willing to take their medicine this year if they need to. Like last year, felt all in. Way more additions than subtractions, of course. But also, like when Trey got hurt, they went out and they gave up draft capital. I think they gave a 3rd and got a 5th back to get Rasul Douglas. Plus, Rasul, cost some money because the Bills were all in. I think this year, at least so far, the vibe I'm getting is that wouldn't happen this year. They're willing to take their medicine this year if they have to. Like it seems trying to win now, but I think it's more about the big picture. The big picture for Brandon Beane is about going forward beyond this year. They are hell-bent, and their actions show it. They are hell-bent on having a much better salary cap, being in better salary cap shape next year, which they will be. They ate all that money to get rid of Stephon Diggs this year, ate all that money this year. They could have done it differently, and they didn't. They're determined to be in good cap shape next year, and they also have good draft capital next year as well. I mean, they got an extra 2nd-round pick. Again, they traded their best receiver to the Houston Texans for a very good draft pick next year, not this year. If that doesn't show you what the big picture mindset of Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills are right now, I don't know what does. Now, you can argue Stephon Diggs could be a problem in the locker room. You can argue that Stephon Diggs, his skill set was declining, if not eroding, although I would beg to say let's wait and see what he does with Houston this year before determining that his skill set has fallen off a cliff. I know a lot of Bills fans want to think that. But anyway, that's not my point. Locker room cancer, declining skills, all that stuff. You get rid of him and you get an asset for next year. What's I tell you, man? It's should have been obvious at that point. So again, to your original point, no, not at this time. I don't think they've adequately replaced Diggs and Morris, and not to mention Gabe Davis as well, even. Definitely not Diggs. Well, wait on seeing Mitch Morris, though, because Mitch Morris, I agree with your theory. The offensive line far and away was Josh Allen's best offensive line last year, and it wasn't really particularly close either. And then you get rid of the center. Mitch Morris, good pass blocker, shitty run blocker. Kind of feel like McGovern's a little bit of the opposite. We'll see. They wanted to get bigger at center. I'm sure Aaron Kromer signed off on releasing Mitch Morris. At least to some extent. I would think he had some say in that. I'd like to think he had some say in that. If McGovern goes and plays center and he's fine, Edwards is decent, that's a wash to me. Again, Morse, still a good player, but wasn't exactly an all-pro, and it's a nice chunk of change to be able to save. But yeah, I like those points. Sebastian says, yeah, I've not been reassured or impressed with Keon Coleman just yet. Just hasn't really stood out to me from the broadcast angle. I know we have to get to the regular season, but the worthy fear bunker is alive and well. Yeah, you got to wait and see with Coleman. I mean, I wouldn't panic on him yet whatsoever. He might not be T. Higgins right out of the gate, but I wouldn't worry about the preseason much with him. You bring up the fear bunker, and I'll tell you, I think it's real. The Xavier Worthy fear bunker is going to be a thing. It just is. It's going to happen. You just know it's going to. I already seen it this past weekend. Had two big plays in the Chiefs preseason game on Saturday, and Bills fans were talking about him. One of them, he blew past somebody by like 7 yards, wide open in the end zone for a touchdown. Every time he makes a big play, it's going to get people talking, especially if the Bills have any problems getting the ball deep this season. Like if the Bills are just going to be I hate to say it with Josh Allen, but almost like a dink and dunk, drive sustaining type team that feels like it's incapable of getting a receiver down the field and making the big play, that Xavier Worthy talk is going to grow and grow and grow, especially if Xavier Worthy is doing a good job at Kansas City, which, to be honest with you, I certainly suspect he's going to. He went to a perfect, and I mean perfect, situation for him. And you're also, the Stephon Diggs fair bunker going to be alive and well. In addition, man, if he has a big year in Houston, we're going to be reminded of that constantly. So that fair bunker talk isn't going to go away, short of Keon Coleman becoming a stud, which I think could happen. I just don't think it's going to happen very early on. I feel like he's a guy who's got great long-term potential in this league, maybe even in the interim, but like right off the bat immediately, not really sure what you realistically should expect from Keon. Continue with him. Alex Mananjo 5081 says this. Also, as far as Keon Coleman goes, remember he's only a rookie who has mostly only got passes from Josh Allen all of training camp. He can't adjust his shitty quarterback play on the fly yet. We will just have to wait and see. Yeah, like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. I know what you're referring to specifically. That was him kind of alligator arming a shitty pass from Mitch Trubisky in the end zone last Saturday in Pittsburgh. I know many of you are salty and because of that. I get it. There's two sides to that story, and neither's wrong. On one hand, you could say, you know what, you're going to be one of our more important players on offense. It's the preseason. Don't lay yourself out. Don't put yourself out there. Take a chance of somebody cracking your ribs because your scrubby backup quarterback made a bad throw. That side is correct. Then there's the other side saying, you know what? Well, you're a second-round rookie who's probably not even one of the best three receivers on this roster at this time, and you got a lot to prove. So go out and make that play. Show us that you're going to be able to make that play in the regular season. Neither side is wrong. But yeah, look, Keon Coleman, end of the day, just straight up, you got to wait and see. Ziggy Sun says he, and him being Joe Andreessen, is better than Spector. Not sure it's particularly close. Spector may have a slight edge in pass coverage, but Andreessen is light years ahead in feel, diagnosing, reaction, the run stop, fighting through blocks, and that's big time. Yeah, we literally had a story about that. We talked about this last couple of days, as I'm sure pretty much every podcast or TV show out there is doing the same. The Cinderella story of Joe Andreessen is a real, and I mean real, chance of coming to fruition now. There's no doubt about it. Look, Bernard, Dorian Williams, they're locks. Obviously, they're the starters. That's two. After that, it's wide open. You got Andreessen, Balin Spector, Deion Jones, Nick Morrow, the rookie, Olafosio. That's five guys right there I just named for either 3 or 4 spots. Did the Bills keep 5 linebackers or did the Bills keep 6 linebackers? So you got, like I said, 5 guys, let's just say for 3 spots, okay? And I wouldn't be surprised at this point if Spector ends up on IR to start the season. He's got a calf injury, hasn't even practiced. We're just a couple weeks out. Maybe they're like this. No, not maybe. They're certainly liking what they're seeing from Andreessen. It wouldn't surprise me to see Spector maybe originally make the roster and then get put on IR the next day. So if that's the case, you're talking 4 guys for 3 spots. I'll say this. Joe Miller was on the show yesterday. He alluded to this. That preseason finale Saturday at Highmark Stadium, I almost said the Ralph, that's just going to be for the birds. That's going to be whack. All right. It's going to be, for the most part, whack. But if there's one kind of story you want to hitch your wagon to that will give you the motivation to either go to the stadium to watch it or check it out on TV, that might be Joe Andreessen. Because if he starts again and he puts together a performance even remotely similar to what he did in Pittsburgh last week, it's going to be really hard to keep him off this roster. And one last point about him, too. I think there's a tie. If there's a tie, That roster spot, I think, is going to the UB kid. Sean McDermott sounds very fond of him. He knows that it's a great story. I absolutely could see him making this football team right now. In fact, gun to my head, I already named, like I said, the two starters. I think you go Andreessen, Morrow, Olafosio, if you're keeping five. And I only say Olafosio because he's a fifth round pick. You put him on waivers. I'd be a little concerned about that. But I think you can get Deion Jones cut, wavered, and then maybe on the practice squad to be that six. Again, putting Spector on IR to start the season. If I had to bet today, and I could change my mind, and I probably will. If I had to bet today, I say Andreessen's actually going to make this team. At David Malley, 5464. If Buffalo Joe gets cut, I'm putting money on Tomlin driving to Buffalo personally to pick him up. Funny, possibly accurate too. I'm sure Mike Tomlin saw plenty on film against his own team. Put it this way. Let's agree on this, folks. Joe Andreessen ain't going to be working a 9-to-5 job anytime soon. He's going to be on an NFL roster. Whether it's 53 or maybe worst case practice squad, he's going to be an NFL player this season. Whether that's Buffalo or somewhere else, that remains to be seen, although I feel pretty comfortable saying it's going to be Buffalo. But this dude is not going to be working, grinding out a 9-to-5 job Monday through Friday anytime soon. At Billy Buffalo, 354. Jarrell Freeman, TJ Edwards, London Fletcher, James Harrison, Wesley Woodward, Bart Scott, Fontes Burkett, Tyrell Dodson, just to name a few undrafted free agent linebackers. The Bills have had a few really good UDFAs recently. Cam Lewis, Morris, Dodson, Ingram, Gilliam, Vandermark, Alec Anderson. All right, this is in response to, I believe, Joe from Queens on the show Monday. Talk about undrafted free agents who just usually don't amount to much or don't cut it, which, by the way, didn't really say that on the show Monday, but I understand what Billy Buffalo is responding to, which I got a couple comments here from Billy Buffalo. I thought they were good takes. So I got him on this multiple times coming up here. But anyway, you're naming some undrafted free agents that found some success for sure. And I'll take it a step further with Andreessen, what makes it such a great story. I could be wrong, but to my knowledge, those guys who you all mentioned, none of them were drafted, but they were undrafted free agents who got signed after the draft. In the case of Joe Andreessen, he didn't get an undrafted free agent contract right after the draft. Nobody signed him. He made this team on a Bills rookie minicamp tryout. That's how he got signed to be on the 90-man roster to begin with. That makes the story even more fascinating to me. All right, a couple more here. At Colleen Andres, 3,800. Dawson Knox. He's going to blow everyone away. Mark my words. With a bunch of exclamation points. Thanks for that, Colleen. Look, blow everyone away. Maybe a stretch, but I certainly expect a nice bounce back from Dawson Knox. I mean, let's not forget, this is a guy who caught 49 and 48 passes in 2021 and 2022. He can make plays. Josh loves him. Josh trusts him unconditionally. I mean, he's not without flaws. He's inconsistent. He drops passes, many of them bad passes. He's also not going to be on the field as much as he was those years with Dalton Kincaid on this roster. But with the Bills' wide receiver room having potential to be mediocre, and that's what it is potentially, if not a disaster, you may see a lot more 12 personnel this year than we think. Joe Brady knows how to get the most out of his players. Joe Brady has had an entire offseason as offensive coordinator to come up with schemes and what he wants this offense to be, which I do not think we have seen much, if any of at all, by design to this point. I think Joe Brady being the OC and having an entire offseason as opposed to last year is a talking point that goes under the radar too much for people who are fearful of what this Bills offense would be. Again, wait and see. That's what it's got to be at this point. At Face a Beer 8024, just a year ago at this time, you were questioning if Shakir would make the team. Glad he made himself known. Well, thank you for that, but let me defend myself here. That's not true. I don't remember that to be true anyway. If it was, find a clip of me saying that. I'd love to hear it. I've been pretty high on Khalil Shakir for as long as I can remember. Now, I know I've told this story on this podcast before. In fact, he was just on the show literally yesterday. But Joe Miller, maybe that's a different story, man. I poke fun at him, and I still do right now. I remember not last year or 2024, I'm talking about a full year ago, training camp. I remember sitting there in the stands with Joe Marino and Joe Miller watching practice, and Joe was skeptical about him making the team. So Joe, send your hate to Joe Miller, man, not me. I never said that. Shit, man. I've said this. I think Khalil Shakir is Cole Beasley with an extra gear. And honestly, trust me, no one calls themselves out more than I do. But I don't remember ever really being down on Khalil Shakir at all. Only Sam's account. Show me the 9 losses on the schedule. All right. In my haste on Monday, or maybe it was early Tuesday. No, it was Monday on Twitter. I said, when all the injury news came out, I kept typing, I will not overreact. I will not overreact. I will not overreact. And then I've slipped in one line. The Bills go with 8-9 this year. I will not overreact. I will not overreact. I want to be clear. At least at this time, I don't think the Bills are an 8-win, 9-loss team. So I was kind of being funny a little bit with my tweet. But since you asked, I can't show you 9 losses because the games haven't been played yet. But I could show you 9 games on the schedule where the Bills are either going to be underdogs, I think, or maybe slight favorites. And by slight favorites, I'm talking about approximately a field goal favorite or more. So I got 9 of those at Miami, at Baltimore, at Houston, at the New York Jets, Miami, Kansas City, Frisco, at the Rams, at the Lions. And I didn't even count the Jets at home, where the Bills very well may just be a slight favorite. So that's 9 to 10 games right there where they're either getting 3 or they might be giving 3 at the most. So it's not crazy to think that. Again, immediately 8-9, heat of the moment. It was an heat of the moment overreaction. That said, you'd be naive to think that is not even a realistic possibility here. Just a few more. Billy Buffalo again says, and this is to Joe from Queens. Joe, why do you even watch the Bills? You're a effing nihilist. I'm going to say her nihilist. Let me get that right. Crapping on players, fans, and people that do good work with content creation. Guess what, dude? You're a content bro too. LMAO. That's funny. Not going to lie to you folks. I had to go and Google what nihilist even meant. That is funny. Joe is a content bro, whether he wants to admit it or not. Look, dude's a curmudgeon, and it's not really an act either. Maybe plays it up for the cameras a little bit, but not much. But I like the differing opinions and style that Joe has. It's who I enjoy, or I should say it's why I enjoy having him on most of the time anyway. Sometimes we argue a little too much, or he cuts me off too much, and that pisses me off, and I start cutting him off on purpose, and it just kind of becomes a mess. And it's no secret, he and I have clashed. He wasn't on the show for 9 months last year at one point or something like that. We had a big falling out. Again, not a secret. Was addressed on the show when he returned. I like that spiciness, man. I'm not going to lie. He's a Bills fan. He probably knows more about the Bills than most, at least the past editions of the Buffalo Bills. Kind of like almost like a Bills historian of sorts. And yeah, his disdain for the media and fans can be over the top, and it kind of gets on my nerves too sometimes. But I like and I respect the fact I'm good with him being, for the most part, honest about things. And last point is, love him or hate him, a polarizing figure on this show. I mean, you're putting him on blast right now. Others do as well. And trust me, I see it in the comments every week. I could probably fill a Podbag episode with Joe from Queens hate. But conversely, see plenty of people like it. And there's plenty of people we talked about on the show Monday. People come up to me all the time. That Joe from Queens, quite a character. I was at Imperial Pizza. I said this on a show the other day. I saw the actual owner there who watches the show, and he tells me, Joe from Queens, quite a character. Fun to listen to. So, yeah, look, goes both ways. You're never going to please anybody. I kind of prefer to have somebody who will go against the grain and disagree with me and call people out. Does it get a little bit over the top? Sure. But that's, I guess, that's part of the game. At Billy Buffalo again, one more time here. If she's not good at her job, her being Maddie Glab, that's one thing and fine to criticize, but mocking somebody simply because or about something they simply cannot change about themselves is pretty dick. All right. This is in reference to Maddie Glad being the Bills sideline reporter during the local telecast on Saturday, and Alan Pergament from the Buffalo News tweeting that he could do without somebody whose voice sounds like nails on a chalkboard. And that kind of pissed me off, man. I said, and I did, and I've said it, and I'll say it again. I don't know if she did a good job or not. I didn't listen to the podcast or the broadcast. I was watching it at a bar, couldn't really hear any sound. Regardless of whether she was amazing or terrible, I just feel like if you're a professional, you're Alan Pergament, a longtime decorated journalist, reviewer for the Buffalo News for all these years, find better, like more humanizing words to criticize. I just thought that was, to your point, Buffalo Billy, a dick move. It was ignorant to me. You could talk about her voice not being appealing. There's just so many ways, and you're a writer. You should be better at it than almost anyone else. Finding words that you could be critical, but still kind of have a human element to them. It just felt like a dick move. And especially, being a woman on the sideline too. She's out there, she's trying her best. She's new at the job. She doesn't have a lot of experience. I got no problem with you being critical. You're a critic. That's literally what your job is at the Buffalo News. But the manner in which you do it, the words that you say, I just thought that was ignorant as shit to me. And I voiced my opinion. I said something right along those lines. I thought that was a really ignorant, dickhead kind of move to do. And I stand by it. And I don't care. And I will stand by it. Oh, last thing, quick point here. Drew Jebs, actually, only non-football one. What's your worst habit? Don't want to get into it today. I want to get this show wrapped up. We're on nearly 50 minutes in already. But I will say this. Actually, this coffee cup is not actually coffee. It is Pepsi Zero. I don't know if it's my worst habit, but it's the one that comes off the top of my head. I am addicted to drinking soda, pop, whatever you want to call it. Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Pepsi Zero, Diet Pepsi, one of those. Drinking it morning, day, and night. It's frustrating. I haven't smoked a cigarette in 14 years. I used to vape. I haven't vaped in 8 years. And I found it easier to stop doing either of those than I do drinking pop. I don't know what it is. It's like my one vice that I really struggle with. Got any suggestions out there on how to kick that habit? I'm open to hearing them. That's going to do it for this episode, by the way. And if you want to be on next week's Podbag, I say the same thing every week. Just go to the Talk of Buffalo YouTube channel, leave a comment on one of the videos. You can tweet at me at Patrick Moran TB, or you can email me, talkofbuffalopodcast@gmail.com. Your question, your comment, your take, I'll get it featured on the show. Thank you very much. And again, I will be back Wednesday night, if you're watching on the video side anyway, live. Andy Young from Imperial Pizza. Talk to you then.